Hello and welcome to the Middlemen. We live at the intersection of online media and commerce, and we distill the topics that you need to be aware of. And I am Tom Lemongello. I'm here with Todd Sawicki. This episode is about Shopify. It's our second episode in the series, and it's also about the news around Target and Shopify partnering for Target's third-party marketplace. Todd, what's the news?
So Target announced a partnership with Spotify, and it came across as a fairly big deal in the news. Two large companies, Target being one of the largest retailers in the United States, obviously, and Shopify, as we're sharing with everyone and teaching them over last week, this week, and in the upcoming weeks, is the most important e-commerce platform to build an online storefront outside of Amazon, and also a publicly traded company that's seen stock price zoom up during the COVID stock market bubble. And so they have a partnership, and so people have said, "Oh my gosh, this is really gonna be something that helps put Target on the map in terms of being a much larger presence in the online commerce space." And really, what it is in fact something much smaller. So the partnership is to quote the press release, which we're sharing on the screen from Target's website. To quote, Shopify merchants in the United States can apply to sell online on Target Plus through Marketplace Connect, an app enabling merchants to seamlessly sell and manage orders on leading marketplaces like Target Plus. That's it. What it is, and I'll quickly show everyone and show the app page. It's Shopify has an app that allows merchants or brands who sell through a Shopify store to push their inventory and product listings into online marketplaces. Currently previously through the app, you could push to Amazon, Walmart, eBay, and Etsy. And now you can push products to Target. This is really just a little app partnership. And by the way, this app and the way Shopify works as a store owner is that you can install different apps to add additional functionality to your storefronts. This is a paid app. It's not even free. It's not used universally across the 2 million stores in Shopify. So you're talking about a subset of stores that cross-list goods in marketplaces outside of Shopify. So the reality is this isn't as big a deal. It's not like every Shopify merchant suddenly is going to show up in Target, which I think some people actually thought it was going to be. And what it means.
Yeah, I'll do this in my NPR voice. I want to remind everybody we bought some gear. If you're looking at the screen or if you're listening, we're upgrading a little bit. But yeah, my interjection is to say I was really excited about this whole partnership idea because in my mind it sparked, oh, Target is really great at curating their store, but their online presence is not an endless aisle. It really actually sort of seems to lack an assortment. And I thought that on the Shopify side, you had this amazing sort of flywheel of product discovery where, I'm not, discovering those stores on my own. I'm seeing the ads that show up on Instagram, either based on a search that I've done or just, based on whatever targeting. I'm seeing these products and I'm going to the store and converting. And I feel like if Target were to lean into this partnership, that it could be really interesting because Target has this sort of halo of quality, even though they're a mass retailer. So to me, it seemed like maybe it isn't on the surface technically an amazing new thing. It's just adding the last of the big retailers to their app, but it could be kind of amazing. I don't know if you think the same way.
So I'm more cynical here. This is like a little, low-level biz dev partnership in all reality, right? It's one of the things that if it were all 2 million merchants magically showing up on Target, I think that would be a bigger deal. But in this case, I'll read you another quote from the press release. It really isn't anything close to that, and that's I think something that we'll push into here. So to quote. The new partnership with Shopify will expand Target Plus through a hand-selected assortment of new and on-trend products and brands like True Classic, Catalina, and more, giving consumer options to explore at porter prices, blah, blah, blah. And so, one of the things that Target does is, and I love how they turn what I think is a potentially negative about their business versus I think your perspective on Target. They turn closed and not open, meaning they don't have an app store. They don't connect very easily to third-party platforms. In fairness, this is kind of one of their big first steps in that direction. They don't have open APIs to publish into like other platforms like Amazon and Walmart do. And so, they're turning this thing into a huge plus hand-selected curation. I look at slow and outmoded potentially as, if you're a brand on Shopify and you want to sell in Target, you don't just install this app and suddenly you're in Target. You install this app and basically you apply to Target and hope their merchandisers pick you up and want to put you in their storefront. So, I mean, in this day and age of digital distribution and digital connections, you're still going to have to talk to a human being just like you did before to get approved. Most likely, like you're basically, it's like almost to me, it's like a credit card application. You're going to fill out a credit card, an application to show up in Target, and hopefully you do. But there's no guarantees you will. So this is, I'm not quite sure it'll have much of an impact on either company's earnings anytime soon. And the other thing is that, as we looked at this, Target's already selling third-party goods. I think that's one of the things people realize is that, like, I just bought some razor blade replacements for my old-fashioned manual razor, and the razor blade replacements are being sold and shipped by a third party, which I didn't realize was even happening. So Target's already kind of at least started inviting third-party sellers, even if it's not "quote unquote" an open platform, a la Amazon and Walmart. And so, but that already happens. So I don't even think people are aware that Target's been a platform that third-party sellers and brands have been able to sell to date.
So maybe it's an interest in Target showing the Shopify merchant world that they are more serious than they have been, even though they've had this program since 2019. And, like you mentioned, Ruggable is on there and there are other third-party sellers out there, whether they're Shopify or not. Maybe they're trying to push harder on it, but then that raises a question for me, which is, whether curated is a marketing term or not. If you have a very curated experience, and I think Target has a great one in store where they have their Starbucks area, their CVS area, they sort of box things up nicely so that they don't have a total mess in terms of their assortment, but it isn't the deepest assortment. So if they go bigger, do they lose that curation, or is there a special Target way of opening the doors at least a little bit? I don't know what you think about that concept. Is curation in conflict with marketplace?
I think that's the bet that obviously Target's making to differentiate themselves. I think in this world of endless aisles, right? Amazon's tagline a few years ago was the world's largest retailer, and Target is clearly not trying to compete against that. The whole curation, hand-selected language, trying to turn what I view potentially as a negative into a positive. Good marketing. Congrats on the team who stumbled into those words. I think that's an area where I would, I don't know if you can do that in this world of infinite choice and competing. Now, I think there is one interesting thing in the press release they also mentioned is that Target has said that they will select and recruit products and brands through this program to put in store. Now, that is potentially an interesting aspect from a merchandising standpoint. It does make their merchandising discovery potentially a little easier. And so I think that is something where you have an opportunity of your Target to get more stuff in store. Now, is that enough? I don't know. And I think, Tom, you pointed out, interesting experience looking at their relationship previously or to date with some of these upstart brands. And is it such a good thing?
Yeah, I'm going to share something here on the screen again. So anybody who is a fan of summer floating, inflatable devices, there's a brand out there that I was a fan of in the last couple of years called Sunny Life, And they make like popsicle shaped floaties for your pool, or anything inflatable you can imagine, but in nice irregular shapes and bright colors. Really exciting brand, probably a little expensive, but now if a brand like that wanted to be in Target Plus, they might notice that Target just launched Sun Squad, which is lower priced and very similar brand of inflatables that probably pushes out any potential for competitors in this area, because they have a whole wall of these products, right. It's like half an aisle. So it's, to me, if you're a brand who is likely a target of Target's private label ambitions, you might, have a little bit of trouble. Or is it the case that you better get into the Target Plus program, otherwise Target's going to copy you? So those are my thoughts as I was going through the store with my daughter in the last couple of days.
Well, I think that's, it raises some interesting questions, right? In terms of Amazon, a few years ago was notorious for copying successful brands and products, third-party sellers' successful products. And when Jassy became CEO, Andy Jassy became CEO of Amazon, he kind of killed that program. And Amazon's been much more focused on just being a platform. And they said, look, we're going to basically kill off our private label brands. We're going to focus just on working with third-party brands and resellers. More and more, that's their take. Fewer and fewer things are being sold and distributed by Amazon. And I think that's a fascinating aspect where if you're Target, I think that's an interesting thing to look into and be concerned about is that where you're going to scare off brands wanting to work with you if you copy them. Another interesting thing here, to our conversation in our series here now on understanding Shopify, and the question, why Shopify as a platform, we're starting to answer that question as well, and how do you work with Shopify as a platform? But I think another question that's fascinating to me is a brand, which is, where do you go first? Do you go to Amazon first? Do you go to Target first? Do you go to Shopify first? And from my perspective of living and working with the Amazon marketplace and different customers of ours from an Expedia perspective who work with both, my advice has often been, if you're creating a brand, starting at Amazon first, building up revenue and sales, and then migrating to Shopify has been, a recommendation. Obviously, there's lots of benefits of creating your own storefront on Shopify that we talked about last week in terms of owning your customer relationships and having complete control over what happens with your products. And, I think, but that has been sort of categories like electronics, like Anchor's the poster child for successful upstart brands in electronics accessories as an example. And there's been other brands who've kind of followed them in that regard. And they started on Amazon, and now they have the third-party storefronts. They have a Shopify store. They're outside of Amazon,
Right.
and so, but that's not.
Yeah, I mean,
always the case.
that's where I think, like, when I again thought about this partnership, I'm like, oh, beauty brands, apparel brands, and stuff like that generally just sort of start with their Instagram strategy and then bolt on a Shopify store, and that's their little virtuous cycle. They don't start on Amazon, right?
No, I think you're and actually, as you brought that up in our conversation about beauty brands, like, oh, damn right. If you look at the beauty brands like Kardashian sisters, and others that have popped up, you look at that and you go, oh my gosh, they're almost never on Amazon. In fact, they don't even sell direct on Amazon. It's all through resellers, authorized or not. A lot of times not authorized, and so they're doing a Shopify, social strategy first and marketplace strategy later. And I think that's an interesting question as to, if I'm going to, why Shopify? Often it's to have those first party relationships with your customers is really the primary reason. But I think it gets to, product discovery. And if you're from a consumer standpoint, how do you discover products? And if you're a brand, an upstart brand who is social friendly, and obviously if you're an influencer starting a brand, you already have an audience and it's easy to take advantage. And it's a lot easier to sell on Insta or TikTok via Shopify than it is via Amazon. And so if you have that built in this, from a brand's perspective, it would be customer discovery, customer acquisition, then, I think that's an interesting way to look at it. Because if you don't have those natural channels, then going to a marketplace like Amazon is a way they have customers coming to their store and looking for products. They spend, by the way, I don't know if people realize this, Amazon's the largest advertiser on Google search globally. Spend billions of dollars on Google search. They're trying to drive a crap ton of traffic back to Amazon. And so they're bringing people to your product, to their marketplace, to their storefront. And so so you're effectively, the benefits of Amazon is you're outsourcing that customer acquisition to Amazon. And the trade-off, of course, is they own the customer relationship, not you. Versus
That's sort of the front
if you have that
running.
audience, you don't need that.
Yeah, well, and we talked a little bit about this last time, is that Shopify is not a marketplace, so they don't benefit from that front running, except in the case I think we're starting to see from the Shopify Summer Editions. They are starting to promote their own shop app, and it's interesting to watch that sort of slowly become a thing.
Shopify, for those who aren't aware, Shopify has an app called the Shop app. And effectively, it's intended as this promotional vehicle that Shopify is promoting as almost a front door to Shopify, as a way to discover products across the Shopify ecosystem. And even then, it's not a universal. Across Shopify's 2 million stores, you have to download the Shop app to your store that connects you, almost similar to this marketplace app that we're talking about in terms of the partnership between Target and Shopify. So you download that app to your Shopify storefront that connects you with the Shop app catalog, and you can opt in to having products promoted through Shopify's Shop app, which is the one marketplace app that they have. They do have an advertising program that you can opt into to have them acquire customers for you through the Shop app, and that's really and we'll get into this a little bit too. It's really their only online retail media play currently.
Yeah.
And because they don't have inventory on storefronts.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the fact that, and there were also ideas around, and I think might be interesting as well, is, even though brands are not really looking to spend more on retail media, they're going to spend it somewhere with some retailers. And does Shopify's entrance into Target give those brands a low barrier to entry to be doing retail media with at least a big retailer, whereas maybe they don't see the results of doing it with an Amazon or a Walmart, or maybe it's too hard to do with a Walmart because they don't the third-party app ecosystem in Walmart's case isn't as easy to use. So yeah, I mean, I think when we were talking about this, my thinking was Target's strategy here, like, we know we're not going to be the best at running third-party marketplaces, so we want to go with the best, app ecosystem, Shopify, for those merchants, so that it's very easy for those merchants to just sort of bring their entire capability to the Target marketplace. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that was sort of my thinking of like, hey, like maybe this is a very pragmatic strategy on Target's point.
I think that's an interesting perspective, right? For those who aren't aware, why Shopify? Well, one of the reasons why Shopify is it has by far the largest third-party app ecosystem to add functionality to your online storefront or your online e-commerce presence. And so if you want to do it, Shopify has an app that allows you to do that. I mean, not Shopify as themselves as a company. They do have apps in the App Store, like the Shopify Marketplace Connect, which, interestingly enough, that was a third-party app company that they acquired, formerly known as Codisto. And so to Target's point of being behind Amazon and Walmart in terms of their online presence, I think that's an interesting thing, where if Target is leaning into Shopify as a way to extend their technological commerce presence, then that's an interesting, I think, play for them. And doing a partnership around one little app in the Shopify App Store is perhaps meaningful in terms of a direction for Target, but not meaningful in terms of, will it materially impact Target or Shopify's business or revenue? No, this is not going to change the trajectory of either company's revenues. But it does, I think, signal some interesting impacts of, yes, Shopify is an ecosystem that is important. If you're a brand and you want an online presence and you want to sell things online, Target, it will allow you to extend into other marketplaces like Target. And I think that's really one of the things to walk away from this is, I just don't know how if you're selling in Amazon, you're going to eventually be selling in Shopify. You're selling in Shopify, you're going to be selling on Target, Walmart, Amazon, most likely. There isn't, I think, it's not one destination for every consumer, every transaction, I think is one of the takeaways from this thing.
Well, we'll probably have to end it there. I think my insistence on there being magic in this connection between Target and Shopify may not have passed through the reality that retail is a marathon and not a sprint. So I feel like I don't think I've won this one, but I still have a belief that it could be interesting. So we'll have to see it play out. But again, thank you for listening. Hopefully it was a better experience this time now that we both have new microphones. And we're doing our best to upgrade our capabilities here at the Middlemen. So thank you, listeners who have told us your feedback. Keep doing that. And we'll be back with episode 3 of Shopify soon. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you next time.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and check in for the next episode, as we mentioned, which will be continue on the Shopify and understanding Shopify. So tune in again.